Innovative ideas for meeting the needs of students now and in the future. Coming up, Campus Conversations talks about innovation in higher education. Welcome to Campus Conversations. I'm Fritzi Bodenheimer. Today we are talking about how, as a community college, we can meet the needs of an evolving student population. Montgomery College President Darian Pollard tells us innovation will be the key.
I think Montgomery College has always been on the forefront of innovation in higher education, whether it be how we respond to an evolving student population, how we think about revenue and budgeting in very different ways. But I think innovation is going to call us to do some very different thinking about how students experience our organization and the value that we're able to demonstrate to our community about what happens here. Innovation, quite simply, and a lot of people have, there's the change, there's the transformation. Innovation to me simply means looking at what you do right now and enhancing that to produce better outcomes. And sometimes that concept of innovation can be a very broad one, or it can be something very specific. So I hope as we are as an organization continuing to lead the country on so many issues, that we're being very thoughtful about the experience the student have and how we are growing, developing, transforming through innovation for those students.
With me now to talk about one of the college's efforts towards Dr. Pollard's goal is Samantha Streamer-Veneruso, one of the coordinators of the Montgomery College Innovation Works initiative. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me, Fritzi.
So in that soundbite, Dr. Pollard was really talking about innovation not as cool machines or new apps, but really as a way to meet a need. And you yourself, you're not a scientist, you're an English professor here. What's this all about?
So Innovation Works, the Montgomery College Innovation Works initiative, is something that Tacy Holliday, my colleague, and I talked with Dr. Pollard about. Dr. Pollard was interested in increasing our capacity for innovation by looking at innovation as a mindset, as an organizational culture, not just as a specific event or a specific initiative or specific concrete things. We have a lot of specific concrete things that are happening that are innovative and interesting, but as an organization, the question was, how do we operate in a way that nurtures and fosters mission-driven innovation collectively, as a whole, collaboratively. So we were asked to look at a way of fostering that kind of across the boundaries operations, of promoting the organizational mindset of thinking about things from different perspectives in new ways, and using innovation from that standpoint.
So what are some of the concrete things that might come out of this new way of thinking?
Oh gosh, it's hard for us to predict exactly what's going to come up. What we can say is we're setting the stage for whatever emerges. We are using, part of it is that in terms of developing innovation and an innovative mindset, people need access to information, access to ideas, they need inspiration, but they also need to learn how to think things from, or have the opportunity, not learn how to think about it, but to have the opportunity to look at things from different perspectives, to work across boundaries, to work across disciplines. And we need a space for that to happen, and we need the opportunities to bring people together in that way. We also need to be thinking about what's happening outside of us and seeing that in a different way. So the Innovation Works has four concrete initiatives that make it up. The first is what's a traditional think tank, bringing together intelligence and information from outside the institution around the kinds of themes that are pushing the need to change. And so making that and bringing that together in a way that the college community can digest it easily, know that it's there, and it's all in one space, fosters conversations around that information. The second initiative are a series of talks. We had our first one a couple weeks ago, the President's Innovation Forum. And that's designed to bring ideas to the college community and to spark conversations within the college community that will lead to new thinking and new ideas here.
And you mentioned that we just had the first sort of talk like that. Can you talk a little bit about who came and what it was all about?
Sure. So we had 3 speakers. It was designed around a TEDx style with each of the speakers giving a short presentation about ideas around the needs of students for the future. So our first speaker was Mr. Dan Hoffman, who's the Chief Innovation Officer of Montgomery County. And he talked to us about creating the capacity for systems thinking and the kinds of skills that students need, active, practical skills that students need, and how the county is trying to work toward that, and challenged us with ideas for how we can do that for students. And it was a very interesting and engaging, thoughtful conversation about student needs.
And a conversation, right? So this isn't, when we have these events, they're not just going to be straight someone talking at an audience.
Right, right. Well, the idea is that they're supposed to be, they'll be in different formats, but they're supposed to be engaging kinds of conversations with the opportunity for feedback. That we didn't finish with the last talk that we had, but one of our other initiatives is a digital journal, which also will extend those conversations from what happens in that room and allow the conversation to continue in a digital space. So that's the third initiative, so we'll come back to that. But the other 2 speakers were Dr. Pollard herself, and she talked about innovation as a heart song and a mindset and as a way of thinking, not just an activity.
So it's not just a program, it's really a whole change in a paradigm, in the whole way that we're doing everything, in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's asking us to think differently and always to be thinking about opportunities for change, not just opportunities for change, but how we're doing things, why we might need to change, and it's constantly asking us to bring those 2 things together to look at how we can do things and serve the needs of our students and our community in new ways as we evolve.
You mentioned there's a 4th thing. I want to make sure we don't forget to talk about the 4th part of the program.
So the 4th part of the program is probably the last part that will actually get put into play, and that will be done in collaboration. This whole project is about collaborating across the college and bringing together different spaces and different agencies throughout the college to work together and to try to create that foundation. So the 3rd space is supposed to be it's a way of creating an actual physical space for people to come together and innovate on a regular basis. When you think about how to create an organizational mindset of innovation, it's about creating space for innovation, both in an abstract mental way as well as in a physical way. So if you think about the Google Garage or the ideas that are out in business a lot, there are physical spaces where people, and time set aside for people to do that kind of creative thinking and do it in collaborative ways, bringing people together from different spaces to do that. So our 4th space would be in line with the Maker Labs that are being talked about on all 3 campuses. And so we're kind of waiting for those to get a little bit more formalized to figure out how we work with that to use those spaces to ignite innovation here too.
And unlike many other projects and committees I'm sure that everyone in every workplace has been on, there's not really an end game here, right? We're not creating something and publishing a report and then it'll be over.
Right.
This is just a whole shift in our way of thinking. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. So part of the premise behind Innovation Works is that it can evolve and adapt as the institution needs it. The goal is that it suits the needs that we have at the moment, and those will shift. And so we are flexible enough to shift along with them. And we're not sure where it's going to be 10 years from now. Might not be needed. Might be something totally different that's needed. So it's not just a final report. It's an ongoing series of initiatives.
Well, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 10 years. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Sure. No problem.
And coming up next on Campus Conversations, we'll find out about an office that makes innovative technology work for all students. We'll be back with more Campus Conversations right after this.
No matter where you're headed, no matter what your age, you'll find it all here at Montgomery College. Small class sizes, flexible scheduling, over 130 programs of study, award-winning faculty, nationally ranked NJCAA athletics. The possibilities are endless at Montgomery College. Register today.
You know, innovation can mean so many things. It could point to a new procedure or new equipment for doing a job better. And one office at Montgomery College knows all about the latest tools for helping every student succeed. Take a look.
My name is Jillian Fowl, and I'm the coordinator of Assistive Technology college-wide for Montgomery College. Assistive Technology is any piece of equipment that maintains or increases the functional capabilities for an individual with a disability. And this office, the Office of Assistive Technology, is part of Disability Support Services, or the DSS office. And one of my responsibilities is to work with students who have been approved by their DSS counselor and offer them trainings and offer them hardware and software that will enable them to have equal access to course material and content. It can be anything from a magnifying glass to high-tech specialized software that requires significant training and access. So really AT runs the entire gamut. One of the most popular software applications that we do have and a large number of our students use is Kurzweil 3000. Kurzweil 3000 has been around for quite some time, and it is a text-to-speech software. However, it has begun to incorporate a lot more features that have really been innovative in their field. Kurzweil 3000 is for books. It's also for testing materials, but you can use it for an entire range of things now. Editing materials. So if you have your book and you want to highlight in it, and say you're doing a textbook rental program and you don't want to mark up the hard copy, you can mark up the electronic copy. You can create vocabulary lists. You can create audio files from Kurzweil 3000. This is just an example of a textbook that's already been uploaded, and I'm going to click the read button here.
The post-war years are marked by political and economic unrest. Within a few months after the armistice.
Okay, so that's an example of what the student would hear. They can put sticky notes in here.
Look up.
They can create a voice note even. They can put a basic text in there. They can bookmark it, create column notes. So it's very rich in that you can, whatever you could do on a hard copy of a book, you can probably do the same thing in Kurzweil. You can also save any changes that you make to your file and then access them anywhere. And for students who have learning disabilities, or perhaps they're not able to comprehend words or reading very well, you have this syllables icon, and it will break the word down into syllables. So if you're struggling with the pronunciation, that's a great tool. They have a whole section called the writing path. They have templates that are built into the software where literally you can plug in your information. It makes it a lot easier for students who can be overwhelmed by the writing process. It gives them a place to start. Combining all of those features into Kurzweil 3000 has really been great for students who have, any sort of learning disability or struggle with that aspect. Dragon Naturally Speaking has been around for some time. It's a very good software for a large number of students. So what I'm going to do is turn on the mic and start dictating and just show you a little bit of what it can do. Bold Dragon Naturally Speaking software. Italicize Dragon Naturally Speaking. Switch to Mozilla Firefox. Scroll down. Click Disability Support Services link. Almost anything you can use a keystroke for, you can use a verbal command for. So Dragon dictation, again, depending on the nature of the disability, can really benefit students and make the computer and the internet accessible to someone who may otherwise not be able to use it. One of the newer pieces of technology that we have here is the scan marker, and it is a pen scanner. And this is another example of technology that's really relatively inexpensive. This is about $75.
Purpose is his or her reason for writing.
And as you can see, we've copied that. And then we can take this and we can put it in a Word document. One of the other functions that it does very well is it can translate into a lot of different languages.
Determinar el propósito de un autor.
The next demonstration that we're going to do is of the LiveScribe Smart Pen. And this is a tool that allows students to record audio through the microphone up here and also take their own notes, and it syncs the audio with the notes wherever you are when you're writing them. So it does that by using a camera in the pen and special paper, and you have controls and devices that are at the bottom of the page.
Civility is a multi-part philosophy, if you will. When you think about the underlying philosophy of civility, it's that I care more about you.
We've taken just a couple of lines from this guest lecture, and what I'm going to do is tap on where I was writing, and it will link it with the audio.
Multi-part philosophy, if you will. When you think about the underlying philosophy of civility, it's that I care more about you.
Now, from these controls at the bottom, I can increase the volume up or down. I can increase the playback speed up or down. I can also navigate through the positioning. The new pen has wireless Bluetooth capability that will let you sync not only your lecture and your notes, but also it will automatically show up on your app, on your iPad, with the audio embedded.
Yes, that I care more about you and the people who come into contact with me.
The fact that you can embed the audio with the text and send it allows you now to share your notes with other people. So that's a huge advantage if you've got multiple students who need copies of notes in the classroom. This is an example of some of the incredible applications that are being created for the iPad especially, but also other tablet devices. This particular app is the MyScript calculator. It recognizes all sorts of symbols. It does, you can set it to however many decimal places you want. You can use sine, cosine. It can do advanced math, and it's a great app for that. A student who has a learning disability and maybe just needs the permission to record a lecture, they would be able to use just a tape recorder or something like a smart pen. But if someone is blind from birth and they need access to the computer and access to the internet, they're going to need other materials. So JAWS screen reading software or converted materials that have been put into accessible format. So there is no one standard answer to what AT can do for someone. It really depends on what the student needs and also the material and the course that they're taking.
Many thanks to Jillian Pfau for taking the time to show us how assistive technology can really improve a student's experience. Speaking of great technology, Marcus recently visited the Bioscience Education Building in Germantown.
We're in the Cell Culture Lab, and with me is Dr. Collins Jones, and you are the Biotechnology Coordinator for Montgomery College. Well, Dr. Jones, thanks for taking a couple minutes with us today for Campus Conversations.
Thank you, Marcus. I'm happy to be here.
First question, sort of a broad question. Let's go way back. We won't talk about how far back. You started in Tacoma Park as a chemistry professor, then you moved up here to the Germantown campus. We've come a long way when it comes to innovation, especially in the biotechnology field, and here we are in this brand new, awesome Bioscience Education Center.
We have, actually. The Montgomery College has come a long way, especially this building is sort of the capstone for that. I'd like to say that we are probably one of the most, if not the most innovative community colleges in America today, because we have our biotech program here as well as our other excellent STEM programs, biology and chemistry. And we also have a life science park that's partly here in our Germantown Innovation Center, but also we are planning a life science park here on the campus to interface the college with the local biotech industry and spur economic development here in Montgomery County.
Okay, and we're in a pretty innovative lab here. Just, I guess, for a quick couple of seconds, tell us what's going on behind us and actually what goes on here in this lab.
Well, this lab is our cell culture lab, and here we are preparing students to enter the biotech workforce. And one of the key skills that you need to have to be successful in biotech is actually to grow cells and culture. So this is a lab that's dedicated specifically to that. So behind us, we actually are growing cells in shake flasks. These are insect cells, which are one of the types of cells that companies use. Okay. Behind us on the other side are tissue culture hoods. There's incubators, and so this lab is specifically dedicated for cell culture.
That's pretty awesome. Now, we are in a pretty good spot when you're a student, or if you're a professional. As we were talking before, we have bachelor's degree winners here. We have master's degree winners here. So you have students, you have returning students, and then you have professionals who can all take advantage of not only the equipment that we have here, but in the area that we are here in Germantown.
Exactly. The biotech program has put at least 300 people to work in the local biotech industry. And about 50% of our students actually have a bachelor's or a master's degree. We have 8 students actually who graduated from College Park this past year, taking our classes to prepare them for a job in the biotech industry. But in addition, we have state-of-the-art, actually amazing equipment here. I brought some friends up from the FDA the other night, and their mouths were dropping at what we have accessible here. So the students will actually learn on state-of-the-art equipment that even some of the smaller companies don't have, and we're looking for ways to partner with them to spur that innovation theme here in the county.
Talk a little bit about maybe a couple of things that somebody might not know that the students are doing here hands-on. I mean, we see a bunch of the pipettes, am I saying that right?
Yep.
So what are they actually doing? Maybe a couple of things that you can tell us that they're working on hands-on.
Hands-on, right now we have an immunology class, and actually for this week and the past couple of weeks, they've actually been purifying an antibody. And so this is again another thing that's common in the local biotech industry. In our intro immunology class, they're purifying antibodies at the bench scale, but when they take our biomanufacturing class, we're actually going to have cells make this antibody in bioreactors, and they're going to move into our protein purification suite and do a slightly larger scale purification, again using the same equipment that you would find at any of the local biotech companies.
Wow, and we have a little less than 2 minutes left, so I guess we'll send you off with this. What are 5 things that somebody should know about this building and about the biotechnology program here at Montgomery College?
I think this building is a state-of-the-art STEM building. I don't think there's any place that can match this, at least at the moment, in the state of Maryland in terms of the equipment and the faculty and just the facility itself. As to the biotech program, the things that I'd like people to know about the program are, 1, we do prepare people for entry-level jobs in the local biotech industry. We work closely with the industry to do that. I have about 20 openings right now that I'm trying to find people for. We are a transfer program. We transfer to George Washington, to Stevenson, to Hood, hopefully to UMBC in the near future, so there are places for our students to go. If students do get a job and they want to continue their 4-year degree, the biotech company will pay their tuition for that through a master's degree. So they can leave with essentially little or no student debt. Again, a number of our students already have a 4-year degree or a master's degree. Mm-hmm. And lastly, we have scholarship money available to help students take classes with us.
Well, that's a fantastic sell. I learned a lot in the 5 minutes that we've had here today in the Bioscience Education Center. So Dr. Jones, thanks for giving us some time today.
So Marcus, we heard about some really exciting and innovative ideas today, but I know there's much more out there.
There really is, and if we want to look back a few years, about 5 years now, when Dr. Pollard became the president of Montgomery College, one of the first things that she would say was that she wants Montgomery College to become the most innovative community college in the country. And I mean, that is shooting for the stars, of course, and it was also a great tagline. But then we fast forward about 5 years, and here we are. And it's actually coming to reality. And if we go back to the Innovation Forum that Samantha Veneruso was talking about, which was fantastic, it was an amazing show, Dan Hoffman and Ronnie Galvin and Dr. Pollard, one of the interesting things about their presentations was they each showed a picture of them as a young person, and talk about innovative thinking, and here we are having them as 16, 17-year-olds, and now here we are today, in front of a very innovative and I guess a very, very educated audience at the Innovation Forum. But one of the things that I walked away from that event was the questions from the audience after the presentations. And it seemed to go back to the students, and it seemed to go back to the classrooms, and how we can use this innovation and use the innovative methods of learning to get to the students. And one of the things we can never forget, we're here at the college, and our #1 job is to get the students learning. And I thought it was very poignant that the questions were asking, of course, to come back to the students. And finally, I think the most challenging, if you would, aspect of innovation at Montgomery College, or innovation in higher education, is actually getting away from the definition, the broad definition of the word innovation. Of course, we have cutting-edge equipment. We have cutting-edge facilities. I mean, we have some of the best buildings on our campuses of any college, let alone community colleges. And we have very cutting-edge methods of learning. But at Montgomery College, innovation is becoming an initiative. It's becoming a concrete idea that it's not just the word of, yes, we're cutting edge, but we're actually working towards innovation, becoming the norm here. And I think if we can start thinking of innovation as an initiative versus innovation as a broad term, I think it's going to be great.
It's very exciting. Thanks for sharing that with us today. And we're out of time, but for more information about any of the topics we cover on Campus Conversations, visit montgomerycollege.edu/campusconversations.